whatever time you're watching, particularly if it's on the replay. And if it's the replay, I'd love you to put R below so I can see that you've seen it on the replay. So today I want to give you some tips about owning your story. So why is it important to own your story? As leaders, we have the power to be vulnerable. It is so important to be authentic and to be vulnerable. And I don't mean in a way of a crying way, not be supportive. Actually, if we share or have the courage to be vulnerable, that gives our team the courage to be vulnerable too. And it's all about trusting yourself, trusting that you have the skills and you have the ability. And actually, we all have a journey. The journey that we share is so important because it gives other people hope. It inspires others to actually share their journey. And it's part of self-reflection for us. As leaders, it's so important that we reflect, we think, we trust ourselves, we know where we're going, but actually look how far we've come as part of celebration. And so you can inspire others. And the other thing is, we all love a story. We're brought up as children with stories. We have our bedside time stories as children. We love reading bedside stories to our children if you have children. And so we really relate to stories. We relate to the hero in that journey. We relate to the villain that stopped them doing what they want to do. And it can really inspire. So I thought I'd share a little bit about my story because I'm all about practicing what you preach. So if I'm encouraging you to be vulnerable, I think it's important that I do that too. So where did my story start? I think, and before you worry about, I'm not going to be going on for hours. This is only going to be a few minutes. So I think when I think about it now, I'm absolutely passionate to help leaders shine, own their story, find their resilient, confident leadership, stand their ground, find their true essence of who they are. And I on a mission to end workplace toxicity. So how did that come about? Did I just suddenly wake up in the morning and think that's a good idea? No. As a child, I never had a voice. Now, in my program, I help those I work with find those beliefs because our beliefs are set by the age of 7, which is quite scary if you're a parent yourself. So I help them unpick those stories that become our blueprint. So I didn't realize I had that blueprint clearly when I was a child, and even until I moved into the coaching world. I realized I was always passionate about giving others a voice, whether it was fighting for the bully in the who was being bullied in the playground, to when I was a nurse and a midwife, fighting for if there was a doctor that wasn't treating them well or they weren't getting the service that I felt they deserved, I would fight their corner. I didn't realize that it was because of my backstory that I've been always so passionate, working globally, supporting nurses globally to find their empowerment. What I didn't acknowledge until later on was that actually a simple story had set my blueprint of staying quiet and not having my own voice. So as a child, we used to go to church every Sunday, and my mother used to reward me for staying quiet in church. Quite normal for lots of parents to do that, I guess. However, that set up my belief that I had to stay quiet to be good, and be good meant that you got rewarded. So no wonder many years later, I found it really scary speaking up in meetings. I found it really scary to actually find my voice, which is why probably I was so passionate about giving other people's voice. Now, I thought I had my voice. I love speaking. I love being on the stage. I loved, speaking globally. I always loved that. That's always been my joy. That's my happy place. I realized while I had a voice on the stage, that was me and able to speak. I did not have the voice with my bosses in the workplace because I was scared. And then one day I stood up in 2015 in a boardroom and I said, enough is enough. This has to stop. This toxicity has to stop. Now, up to that point, when I'd actually experienced quite a lot of toxicity in the workplace, I had gone with that lens of it's because I'm not good enough. If I was good enough, this wouldn't be happening to me. And how often do we go with that lens of I'm not good enough? That moment I found my voice. I stood my ground. It was the most extraordinary experience. I had this energy within me I never knew I had before. And the night before, my boss undermined me one more time, and a fuse just went. Not in terms of anger, just right, this has to stop. As I stood up in that meeting, the room went silent. Now, I had prepared the team beforehand that I was going to say something, and they were all there to support me. However, of course, when that moment happened, everyone went silent. They all looked embarrassed. They all started looking down at the desk, at their papers and their pens at the meeting. And what was really weird about that experience was it inspired me even more to say my piece. I found my voice that day. That's the time where I said, right, workplace toxicity has to stop. I never want anyone to go through what I've been through. And that set my mission that day. To help leaders find their resilient, their confidence leadership, unpick their stories from childhood, which they might not even know they've got, just by having a few deep meditations, a few conversations, and therefore they change their blueprints. They own who they are. They rise and they shine, and it is the greatest gift. It's such a joy to be able to support people. So I just want to share that's my story as how I got to work with leaders to help them find their resilience and their confidence to end workplace toxicity. But there's more complex to that. I think as a child, yes, I had a bit of abuse. I experienced abuse. I had some amazing, and my parents were amazing, but from other people, it wasn't great, so amazing. And so therefore, that just reinforced this feeling that I wasn't good enough. If I was good enough, this wouldn't have happened to me, because we see our view from the child 6, 7, 5, 4, whatever age we're at, we then set that blueprint. It is the most liberating thing to get rid of that blueprint, stand our ground, own our awesomeness, so we soar and we shine. And you can do this too. So I'd love to hear from you, because I think all of you have an extraordinary story to share. And it's time we shared it, because by sharing it, you inspire others. You show you're the leader that you really are, in line with your values, in line with your integrity, in line with your authenticity, and celebrate your achievements. Be that shining tall poppy that is there showing the world how awesome you are, not in an arrogant way, just absolutely owning it. So that's a very brief, bit of a fuddled story about my story of how I ended up really passionate every minute of every day to help leaders own their awesomeness, rise and shine with resilience and confidence. And so all of us together, if we shine, we will not tolerate workplace toxicity. And therefore, by definition, if there's nothing to feed it, no one to feed it, then it has to die. And therefore, the world becomes a much better place. So thank you for listening. Love to hear your thoughts. Love to hear your stories. And I'm here. Take care. Bye-bye.